because in Hollywood, remember, kids, it's not important if it's of high quality. Only if it makes money.
Say hello to my little friend!
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
The need for speed.
Get to the chopper!
Life was like a box of chocolates.
It's stylistically designed to be that way, and you can't undo that, but we can diminish the effects of it.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
This is the Movie Mania podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Movie Mania podcast. I will start over. I've got to take a breath first. Hello everyone, welcome to the Movie Mania podcast where I haven't done it in 2 weeks. Oh god, I can do this.
Movies, past, present, and future, and live streams that failed that forced us to do the podcast the old-fashioned way via Skype. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And thank you to the handful of people who endured 6.5 minutes of me in the live stream going, "Where's the play button? Oh, God. Oh, this is so terrible." Thank you.
It's supposed to be a big green button. Where's the button?
Last week it was so easy. We just said go live and it just all happened. And this week it all just fell apart. So I don't know what's wrong. But anyway, how are you guys?
Yeah, good. Doing good, thank you. Yeah, once we've finally got some sort of recording setup all sorted, fingers crossed it holds true and it stays working. But yeah, all good. How are you doing, Trey?
I'm doing all right. It was funny because Bandit was like, "Oh, where we can record Monday?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can record Monday." And I forgot I had a theater thing to do Monday evening. Like, "Oh, well, I can't record Monday." So I was just gonna kind of my plan was just to kind of go back and listen to what you guys did. But I forget that things only take like an hour, and so my thing started at 7. So I got back to my house about 8:15. I was like, "Oh, I'll sneak into the podcast like Thor and Infinity War spoilers," and I'll just be like, "Bring me Thanos." But it didn't. I get on the podcast. Everyone's just like, "Where is it? What's going on?" And everyone's like crying. And I'm like, "What did I just walk into? I'm like, what did I miss?"
So
it's still up there.
When he walks
it's still up there on the channel, I think.
Yeah, Community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, shall we jump into the movie news, guys?
Yes, let's
go
into
for
the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
So yes, movie news, everyone. This week you get me doing movie news because Trey wasn't supposed to be here. But first story.
Shame.
Oh, shame.
God.
Don't worry, I can't give anyone else shade after the failure that just was the live stream. So it's all good. Well, there is going to be a Sherlock Holmes 3. It is definitely happening. And Warner Brothers made it official today that Sherlock Holmes will hit theaters on December 25th, 2020. God, that sounds so futuristic. 9 years after Game of Shadows dropped. Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law will reprise Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, respectively. But there is no director attached yet, meaning Guy Ritchie will not be back for round 3. Which I'm actually happy about because I thought he really overused the slow motion stuff in the second one. There was way too much of the and like zooming in and slow motion things exploding. I was like, okay, just ease up. You're making Zack Snyder have seizures here with his slow motion. So I'm okay. He's not returning for Sherlock Holmes 3. What do you guys think? You excited?
Come on, Doug Liman.
That would be a cool pick. But Guy Ritchie, I like Game of Shadows, but it was a notable step down from the original film. And after King Arthur, and he's working on the upcoming Aladdin, which is being like mired in occasional controversy and stuff. So I think Guy Ritchie needs a small project and a couple of small films like M. Night Shyamalan. I'm not saying he's at that failure level, but I think Guy Ritchie...
Wait, pause. You want to say that again, Trilbee?
I don't think Guy Ritchie is at M. Night Shyamalan's his level of failure before, pre-visit, pre-split. But Guy Ritchie needs to get some smaller projects before he starts tackling like franchise material again, at least in my opinion. So it's a good shout.
Well, it's interesting. Side point. It's interesting how comparing a director to Shyamalan has now changed. It used to be that you've ruined your career. Now it's that you bounce back.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
I
for
don't
you,
know.
Shyamalan.
Let's wait for him to make Glass. 'Cause, like, I think if he makes three solid films, like I didn't like The Visit that much, but I really dug Split. And if Glass is good, I think we can say he's officially back on the market.
Yeah, agreed. But speaking of like Guy Ritchie slow motion and things like that, I know it's a separate story, but did anyone see that Robin Hood Taron Egerton trailer?
I think I watched. Yeah, no, I watched it all. I watched it. They really think a guy drawing his bow was really cool. They were really playing that up like it was a cool thing, but it looks so awkward and weirdly choreographed.
Yeah, and it's clear that the Sherlock Guy Ritchie franchise is still quite influential, despite it not being a gigantic, massive hit for Warner Brothers. But it has a style that's unique and in the blockbuster space, at least. I'm glad it's getting a new one, but is it too little, too late? This is 9 years after Game of Shadows. 9 years.
Well, I think because spoilers for Infinity. We're gonna go through this. I think Robert Downey Jr. will be gone after Avengers 4, so I think he will be needing a franchise, and they'll be playing up the star power that is Robert Downey Jr. And I'm not talking like The Judge. Let's make a dramatic Oscar-winning film. I'm talking like, let's have a big budget, fun blockbuster with explosions and detectiving, and hopefully it won't be as ridiculous as Sherlock season 4.
But it's weird because we've got Sherlock Holmes 3. It's going to be released in the same month as Avatar 2, and I remember Avatar and Sherlock Holmes, the original, being put in the same month at the box office, and both films did, of course, really, really well. And and also the week before you've got Sing 2, so it's going to be a crowded Christmas at multiplexes. But I'm looking forward to it.
One of those might move.
Do you think
Sing 2 might move?
I don't know. Sing might make a lot of money. Like the first.
Oh wait, yeah, Sing did make a lot of money. Well, then I think Sherlock Holmes might move to like October or something. Because they're not trying. Because when does Avatar 2 come out?
It comes out the same. 1 second. It comes out the week before Sherlock Holmes 3.
And when does Sing 2 come out?
Christmas Day, same day as Sherlock Holmes 3.
Well, maybe, because Sing that's some counterproduction there, and Christmas is a big kind of that's the big Christmas week. That might be a good place. Then never mind. Oh well, speculation over.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the next news story is Deadpool was almost going to be a father in Deadpool 2. What? Yes. However, in the upcoming Deadpool, if the upcoming Deadpool 2 movie had gone a different way, it would have reunited. Hang on, I'm reading the wrong bit. It would have been Deadpool having a kid. Okay, Ryan Reynolds said this. The genesis of it was, what if Deadpool had a child? Like, what if we start 5 years later, and what would that be like? By page 1.5, it was totally untenable. We were just like, nope, no. This will never, ever, this is never, ever going to work. And we went back to the drawing board and kind of reworked everything in a way where he wanted to have a child, which is something that a lot of people do want on a daily basis, wanting to have a child but can't. Thank God they did not go with that.
See, when
decision.
when you describe Deadpool's gonna have a kid, why was my first thought, the kid's gonna come out of him? I don't know why that was the first, because it's Deadpool. It could happen.
And it's going to be a unicorn. There you go. Yes. He'll birth a unicorn. Actually, that's creepy considering what he does to unicorns. Forget I said that.
No. Stop.
Yeah, good job, Ryan Reynolds. Totally. I'm so glad you didn't go in that direction. Okay, next story is the Russo brothers have dropped another clue about the Avengers 4 title, squashing some of the former rumors about what the title could possibly be. In a recent interview, one of the Russo brothers said the name is going to be grounded in the narrative that we have following throughout the MCU from the very beginning. Very well grounded. So people are saying, okay, so if the name is going to be connected to a theme that's been running through the whole MCU since the beginning.
That was a bad
well, some
pun,
people are
sorry.
saying maybe it's going to be Avengers Assemble. Or maybe Avengers.
No, you can't read that one.
That'll be so confusing because in the UK, the first Avengers film was called Marvel Avengers Assemble. It's going to be so confusing.
Yeah. But what could it be then? If it's a theme, what's a theme that goes back to the beginning of the MCU? Teamwork.
Avengers for Deadpool has a baby.
Yeah,
Avengers. Sure. Wait. How about Avengers: A Bigger Universe? Because isn't that what Nick Fury says to Tony Stark? That he becoming part of a big universe, something like that. Avengers Initiative, maybe. I don't know.
Avengers, we like money, because that's well, the theme of it from the very beginning.
It's gonna be something about avenging the Earth, right? Like, because that's why they didn't want to release it, because they didn't want to ruin the fact that the Earth needed avenging after Part 1. So I don't know. The new Avengers,
avenging Avengers. They could just call it that.
the Revengerers.
The Revengers.
The Revengers. Do you like the Revengers? I'm still deciding.
Actually, it could be something revenge related, because didn't Tony say that to Loki at the beginning? He said, if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that could be them living up to their name of tracking down Thanos, getting payback. But anyway,
knocking on his front door while he's sitting there making a cup of tea, like in Blade Runner 2049, just like, good morning.
Well, this is the last story. In other Avengers news, the Russo brothers said he actually referenced in this article. He was talking about why some of the Avengers made mistakes during Infinity War, and you think he's going to talk about Star-Lord, hashtag Star-Lord screws the universe, but he actually talks about Thor. He talks about how
aim for the
reason,
head.
Yeah, and he says the reason that he didn't aim for the head is he wanted to hit him in the chest so he could have that gloating moment of like, yeah, I got you, man. And I was like, wow, I hadn't actually thought of that. But here's what he said.
Well,
he
said, obviously.
Thor had Thor gone for the kill shot, that snap would not have happened. These are choices that characters who are feeling immense pain make, and hopefully the audience can learn to emphasize with those characters because they can grow through stories. Stories can teach us things, and that we should try to see every choice from the perspective of the character that made the choice. So hashtag Thor screwed the universe, because he deliberately didn't get the head, because he wanted to deliver that cool one-liner. And it was a one-liner, but
it's called a tragedy, guys. And every character has a tragic flaw, and because of that flaw, they lose, and they either end up dying, or in Thor's case, causing half the universe to die. I mean, that's classic storytelling right there.
Well, I also don't think there was an issue with Star-Lord like doing what he did. Like, obviously, it's easy to say he shouldn't have like flipped out the way he did, but considering what happened to him and Gamora over the course of that film, like, and their initial showdown with Thanos and how badly that went, and how he did pull the trigger and it didn't work. You can kind of empathize with him, because he's kind of a weird man-child who's threatened by Thor's presence, because there's a true man, a true angel on the spaceship now as the leader. So he feels emasculated, but he's got this relationship with Gamora, which, regardless of how the scenario played out, she wasn't going to make it out, whether Peter Quill did it or whether Thanos did it. I empathize with him. I understand why he did what he did.
That Star-Lord thing is not on Star-Lord. That Star-Lord thing's on Tony Stark, because he's the one that could have easily shot Star-Lord in the foot or something. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that there was like 8 people there. No one could have been like, Dr. Strange could have been like, cosmic bands, tie Star-Lord down, Cape, could control Star-Lord, because that's what I'm saying, right? Like, no, like Peter web up Star-Lord.
Peter Webb in his face,
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel like that wasn't on Star-Lord. That wasn't everybody else for not paying attention there. But that's also the writers wanted to make a dramatic moment. That's what that was. And
not everyone's going to be infallible, even though they are fictional characters who are written. Like, no one's going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes.
Fun fact that happened to me today when I was talking about the movie, because people are finally seeing it this weekend, and so everyone's talking about it in great detail now. And I talked about my issues I had with the film, and someone just turned to me and said, "You realize it's a movie, right? That nothing's real." And I said, "I know, but
it's real to me."
I know. I had this by accident. I'm like, because I guess apparently I was getting worked up because everyone was on my case about not liking the film very much, and everyone was like, and I'm like, I was defending it, and someone goes, "It's okay. It's a film. It's not real. Like, Star-Lord's not actually dead. Chris Pratt's chilling in his house somewhere." And I'm like, I know that, guys, but I did have.
I hate it when people say that, because, like, hey, look, if there are any average normal people out there listening to this, don't say that to a super fan. It's they could get violent. You know,
well, we're not
threatening
violence.
It's not a movie.
We're not threatening violence upon people. Do not stop that.
No, I'm warning against.
No.
Hell hath no fury like a fanboy.
Yes. But everyone's a nerd about something, and I think that brought up an interesting point. And because I was like, well, you freak out about a football team, and all the football players are just fine. And I don't know. Everyone is a nerd for something, whether it be shoes or fashion or sports or films or comics or whatever, video games.
Being a nerd just means you're passionate. You can be passionate about anything, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, shall we get into our homework, which is also our feature presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because that was what we were doing, right? We were kind of doing a homework cleanup and...
Yeah, lots to cover.
Yeah. Okay.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment.
Your homework is to listen to some real music, get inspired.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Down with homework?
So, guys, I saw Ready Player One eventually. I know some of you guys did too. You saw it, Trilbee, yeah?
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
Yes. What do you think? Because I really, really enjoyed it. And this is like the kind of movie. I kept getting South Park flashbacks.
I love that so much. Trilbee, what do you think? That being said, here's what I think. I'm sorry, Bandit. I don't want to give you shit. I just love when people do that.
I don't even have a chance to say anything there.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's just I feel like sometimes we like put too much weight on Trilbee because Trilbee can always like talk and say really interesting stuff. So I was like, I keep throwing the ball to him, but
that's a really nice way of saying, Trilbee, shut the fuck up.
No, really. Like I said that, but then I was like, I kind of sprung it on you. So I thought I'd go ahead. No, it's all right. You go ahead then, Trilbee.
No, that's fine. I like the film. Yeah, it's not Spielberg's best or his best blockbuster by any stretch, but it's still a really fun big screen experience, and that it is basically nerdgasms on screen all the time, seeing these different combinations of licensed characters pop up and. The plot itself, I don't think there's that much going on under the surface, but as a fun time at the movies, a great piece of escapism and an adaptation of what, from what I've read, is a pretty poor book. We've once again got Steven Spielberg taking something like Jaws and Jurassic Park, where he takes source material that's promising and he elevates the material with his adaptation. And that's the impression I got with Ready Player One. It's not his best, but it's a really fun time. So, Bandit, you may now talk, because I will now be quiet.
It is. It's a really good time, and I think because Steven Spielberg was directing it, like if it wasn't that Steven Spielberg was directing it, there would have been more cringiness around a lot of the nostalgia, because you'd be like, you're just throwing that in for a cheap. But with Spielberg, he's throwing in stuff that's from mostly his movies anyway. So I'm like, he's allowed to do that. You know, like he could have the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, or he could have the DeLorean. I'm like, that's okay, because it's a Spielberg movie. So yeah, that was fantastic, and it really surprised me because
we know that Back to the Future is Robert Zemeckis. I'm sorry, I just went to. I could see.
Oh yes,
but Spielberg produced it, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
But everyone, there's going to be like 5 guys that's like, I'm actually...
Trey, Steven Spielberg produced the movie.
Oh, Jesus. Sorry, keep going, Bandit. Keep going. Keep talking.
Right. So I went into it knowing very little about the movie. I just saw one trailer, and I don't think I've watched it all the way through. Because I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's another one of those movies, dystopian future, people living in this video game. It wasn't really a dystopian future. It was kind of in many ways not that different from like the reality that we have today or will have in the near future. So it wasn't really about like, ooh, technology's evil, ooh, get your head out of the game, because it was still like, no, this is just how people, like, all entertainment is now channeled through this Oasis thingy. So I was very impressed, like, early on, that it didn't go that easy route of just saying, oh, technology's evil and all that sort of stuff.
What if society was a phone? Sorry.
Yeah. And there was a lot of like meta jokes. Like, for example, the villain in this, the villain is the guy, I think he was Taggart or something in The Dark Knight Rises. Remember, he's the guy that Bane's like,
Daggett.
do you feel in charge? Daggett, yeah. Yes. So he's Daggett from The Dark Knight Rises, but in this, his character's name is Nolan. So I was like, is that a reference to Christopher Nolan with The Dark Knight Rises? I noticed a lot of stuff like that, which I was like, good job. And like the guy, I think his name is Halliday, who designs the Oasis, he's like so over the top. He's like a hyper parody of these kind of like super autistic computer programmers. It's like, people take that Steve Jobs kind of character and that Mark Zuckerberg sort of character. This guy was like a totally exaggerated version of that.
He was kind of like a Silicon Valley Willy Wonka, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it really was kind of like Willy Wonka. It was like when he's like, I've hidden the Easter egg. I'm like, oh, this is the golden ticket. But no, it was fantastic. It was good fun. It held my attention for most of the time. And I found often I'd think something and then 5 minutes later someone else in the movie would say it. Like there's a moment where the main character, he finds one of the first keys. And then there's the other players who sort of come second, third, fourth. And he's working with the girl who came second. And he's like trying to figure out the clue with the girl who's second. I'm like, dude, she's your competition. I'm like, you're in a competition. Don't tell her what you're working on. And then like 5 minutes later, like his best friend says the exact same thing. I was like, oh, cool, good. So like the movie's self-aware. So yeah, it was a fantastic movie. Really good. I'd recommend it. It's just a good, fun, enjoyable popcorn flick if you want to like chill out and watch something. So yeah, that's.
But is it very okay? Because I haven't seen it, and I had no intention to. That's actually, and I keep hearing this word getting thrown around a lot, and call me the pompous purist if you want. I know people will. People have been calling this movie fun a lot. But my question for you, both of you, is it particularly any good? Like, is it an actual good movie? I'm asking you, Trilbee, specifically.
I'd say it is good. It's not, like, in terms of this visual spectacle and its direction, its production values and the production design, it's great stuff. And the performances are fine, although the characters are quite arch. I like the performances in it. You've got the BFG, Mark Rylance, as this Willy Wonka-style guy who mostly appears in flashbacks because the film opens with him. It's his death and he's left an Easter egg and he's left keys for players to find in the Oasis for them to inherit his legacy, basically. And he's really fun. The performances are fine. There's quite a few tropes that I wasn't a fan of. Like, you've got Olivia Cooke, who is... She's normally in really bad films, but she is really great in them. Like
The Dying Girl's a good movie, Trilbee. I'm sorry.
Okay, she's in films that I do not like or have big problems with, like The Quiet Ones or Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and she is always like the standout in them. And she's playing the whole cliche, oh, I've got a birthmark on my face, so that makes me ugly, even though it ironically makes me hotter. And it's one of those things, like, oh, how could anyone possibly love me because I've got a birthmark? Like, fuck off.
That's what I thought. I was like, they carry on like she's super disfigured. I'm like, no, she just got a slight discoloration around her eye that you might not even notice.
But it's that sort of thing where it actually makes her look even better, in a way. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Doctor Who
I just
did
picture
something
Trilbee
similar.
sitting there like in his hat and popcorn, like, no, fuck off. Like, just as the moment she's like, I'm ugly.
I put the popcorn tub over my crotch to cover it up. But there's like Doctor Who did something similar where they had this character who had like irises which were stars instead of circles, and she was like, oh, it makes me ugly. It's like, no, you look awesome. Get out of here. But there were a few cliches like that. Simon Pegg actually has a small role in this, and it was really fun.
Yeah, he does. Did you see Trilbee?
What you're saying, Bandit? Sorry. You go.
I was just going to say, like, there's a bit where Chucky appears in the movie, and I thought of you, Trilbee.
That is the best PG-13 F-bomb that I have heard in a long time, since X-Men First Class.
Actually, I don't remember that. How does that work?
What do you mean?
Was there an F-bomb in the movie?
What,
I don't remember that.
In Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when Chucky appears, one of the guys who he's attacking says, "It's fucking Chucky!" And that's the one F-bomb in the...
Wow, I didn't even notice it.
It's perfect. And I know that no one cares about this issue other than me, but for me it's kind of sacrilege to have the Iron Giant in the movie and he's in combat. I know the film's not saying, "Oh, look how cool it is that the Iron Giant is a figure of war and it's awesome." I know the film's not explicitly doing that.
I mean, he is a figure of war in this movie.
Not in the way he was, and this is kind of where Ready Player One doesn't have much substance to it, because it doesn't have much to say about why we love these figures, that people would have avatars of them. You've got the Iron Giant, which was, of course, created by Brad Bird, who created the Iron Giant because his sister was killed by gun violence. So he made the Iron Giant as an anti-war, anti-violence movie, and then you have the Iron Giant in this film as yeah, he's kicking ass. I know no one cares about this other than me, and I'll acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But it's also how Ready Player One doesn't really want to get under the surface of pop culture. And it's better than the book, because with the book it says, oh, and in the race was the Ecto-1 in the film Ghostbusters. Now, Ghostbusters was an American film that came out in 1984 and was a really good comedy. The book actually does stuff like that. But in the film, the Ecto-1 is just there. That's it. It's so much better than the book, because it's just able to visualize the pop culture references instead of just beating you over the head with how knowledgeable Ernest Cline is with geek culture. But there's some really inspired segments, like the Shining segment, which is
that was weird. It goes off on this weird Shining parody all of a sudden.
Well,
I'm like,
terrific.
what the hell is this?
It's terrific, the Shining segment, because they even shoot it in film or with a slight bit of grain. They use actual footage from the film, but you've got these digital avatars going through the hotel, but they're also they've got film grain on them. It's awesome, and Steven Spielberg had obviously is very affectionate to Stanley Kubrick. The two were frequent collaborators and friends. So this is clearly coming from a place of love, but it feels like there's not much under the surface. To go to Trey's question, I think it's a good movie. It just doesn't have a lot on its mind, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But it means I don't think it will quite have the staying power like Jurassic Park or other films other films in Steven Spielberg's library.
I think in regards to the pop culture thing, it might be a little bit more self-aware, or if not, this scene would be really ironic. Because remember, there is the scene where the main character is talking to the main villain guy, and the main villain guy's like, yeah, man, I understand pop culture, all this. And then, of course, he's got an earpiece in, and he's got 50 corporate nerds on the payroll who are feeding him lines of okay, reference this thing, reference that, this connects to this. So he's just kind of pretending that I know. Yeah. I know. See, I'm down, man. I understand all this stuff. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because a lot of movies are pretty much just like that. Like you're mentioning, a lot of movies aren't. They just sort of mention stuff, but they don't know what it is. So I think in this case, a lot of the references were done in the right kind of way. I think that scene is sort of a wink towards that weird sort of soulless corporate. We get you, man. But I was going to say originally that.
Sorry,
it did make me think of this.
I was going to say the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, really? I'm thinking about Avengers: Infinity War, but yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a great example of that. Yes.
But I also wasn't a fan of the very last shot of the movie, because Trey, you're not bothered about spoilers, are you?
No.
But because the film ends basically with, we found the key, the Easter egg, and we now own the Oasis, and now we're going to close it every Tuesday and Thursday so people can have meaningful interactions in the real world. And instead of this guy having a normal, friendly relationship and just talking and getting to know this girl, it's just them snogging on a sofa. And it's okay, so you're not here for the conversation or for the relationship. You just wanna kiss. Okay, that's cool. But I was hoping you'd have more on your mind there, buddy.
You want to see him
saw the birthmark, and he had to.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind that, because I thought a lesser movie would just end with him going, I'm going to end the Oasis so that everyone can just get back in touch with reality. But in this, it was more realistic, where it's no, the Oasis is pretty cool. People like it. You just got to moderate how long you spend there, just like all entertainment. But I like that.
What if at your job, your only day off are Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah. Maybe that'd be the new weekend in that time zone.
Maybe, they'd have to rethink the entire world and the whole calendar around it. But it's a fun world, and what they do with the Oasis and all the licenses and pop culture references, it's all fun. And I may get it on Blu-ray just to freeze frame and be like, oh, the Battletoads are in the background, or there's the bike from Akira.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, it did. It reminded me of the South Park episode Imagination Land.
Yes.
Because have you seen that? They throw in every single character. This was kind of like that. I was like, it's Imagination Land. You know that song they sing in South Park. Yeah. And like during the big sort of, and they have a big like Lord of the Rings battle, but with all the pop culture characters on one side. So I was like, yeah, this is like Imagination Land. And I was like, here might be the get around for your problems with the Iron Giant in fighting. It was technically only an online war, so nobody died.
Oh yeah,
so it's okay.
Like I said, it's the Iron Giant most shallow criticism from me, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But I think
there was a. I did like how the guy, his aunt dies, and he has absolutely no emotion about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even talk about it at all. And in the next scene, he's just like, okay, on to the next clue. And I was like, right, all right, fine. But I am fascinated to, at the start of the movie, he talks about, when he's doing the voiceover explaining the universe, and he mentions, I was born during the time of the bandwidth riots.
Yeah, and the corn syrup drought. Which I thought was funny.
And the corn syrup drought. But particularly the bandwidth riots. At first I was like, that's stupid. People wouldn't riot over the internet being down. But then I thought about it and I was like, actually, whenever the internet is down, I get pretty angry. So yeah, that.
There's those great. Here in America, we have these great commercials of like for AT&T and stuff. It's like 15 minutes of that internet, and it's just like World War II is happening again. It's like the world on fire. So, and I mean, the whole net neutrality thing was a big deal for a reason. So that makes
whenever
sense.
Whenever Facebook is down, it only takes like a minute or two for #Facebook down to start trending on Twitter.
That's so crazy. That's insane.
But there is some really inspired beats, which I'm not sure are from the book. I've not read it all the way through. But there's a thing called the Zemeckis Cube, which is able to rewind time. There's the Clark Kent.
That's cool.
There's the Clark Kent glasses, which means if your avatar puts these glasses on, you are seen as Clark Kent, as in Superman Clark Kent, but the rest of the world doesn't know your identity, even though all you've done is put glasses on. And there's just a few fun references like that, and Spielberg clearly has an affinity for all the source material he's parroting or putting on screen.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like whenever someone says, oh, this is just a fun film, you can, turn your brain off and enjoy the idea of just watching spectacle on the screen. I feel like there are blockbusters out there that are able to do that and so much more. Like, I was rewatching the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and that movie's so damn spectacular. Oh, yeah. And it's able to have all that really fun spectacle, and it has all the nice humor and the jokes and some cool references to the, the 70s and 80s with their music. But then it also has like that moment at the end with the tape, and he puts the tape in the thing and Ain't No Man High Enough plays. And I don't know, maybe Ready Player One has those kinds of moments, but
you're
absolutely right. The idea of a shallow, yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. If you have like way up on this higher plane, something like Guardians of the Galaxy, which has heart and humor and spectacle, it's a complete package film. With Ready Player One, in my opinion, it's several notches down, but I don't regret watching it. I don't regret the time I spent with it. It is obviously if it doesn't quite compare to many other blockbusters, but it's honest with itself in a way. And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
It's not Jurassic Park. It's not it's not Jaws. It's not Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like solid B tier, B level Spielberg. But it's fun and honest with itself, and I appreciate it.
It's the cinematic equivalent of fairy floss. You enjoy it, but there's no real substance there.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what fairy floss is?
It's that we call
Maybe
that
it's called
cotton
something different.
It's cotton candy here in the States, for you guys that don't know. Yes,
in the UK, we call that cocaine.
Theresa May, is that you? No, but I... Excuse me.
So yeah, there we go. Ready Player One, good movie.
Yeah.
Okay, what's
I probably will never see it.
If we go for a rating, I would give it 3.5 stars out of 5. And like if say Guardians is like that 4.5, 5-star thing, this is like a whole. This is it's further down, but it's still fun. Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah,
if it's on
likewise.
Netflix,
I'd give it a similar rating.
Yeah. I'll sit down and watch it one day if it's on TV.
It's shallow but enjoyable. There you go.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Do you guys want to get into Black Panther?
Oh, do you really want to get into Black Panther? I thought you were joking when you said you wanted to do that.
let's briefly touch on it because we never got to do an episode on it, and I feel like it's coming. It'll be in the minds of the public because it's coming out on Blu-ray this week, or it just has come out on Blu-ray. We just saw Infinity War. We talked about Infinity War last week. I think it's fair that we touch on it before we get into other films that we've seen, so we can just like spend like 2 minutes on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Go full spoilers on it, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. If you've seen him, Trilbee, tell me what you think. You probably have to pause this.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, you should do that to me, Trey, when I try to talk. That's it.
He was great in the film, M'Baku.
He was. I can what?
Yeah. But I kind of put this on a similar plane, like on a similar level to Wonder Woman, where there are some big issues I have. It's not a knock it out of the park home run hit in terms of like the quality of the film, not its success. Obviously, it's done massive business, but it's something I enjoyed. It's a world that I enjoyed inhabiting. I like the cast. I like Michael B. Jordan. He's one of the best villains that the MCU has got going. Andy Serkis is having a riot in the film. He's great. I'm one of the people who thinks Letitia Wright is the breakout performance. She's terrific in the film, in my opinion, but I know some people find her grating. That's understandable. The music is really original for the MCU and something really different. The whole production value, the costumes, and there's some dodgy green screen. The big CGI rhinos are just not very good, even though I applaud the ambition. But I'm just kind of amazed at the balls of this film. How Ryan Coogler essentially went to Disney and said, I want to make something incredibly politically charged. I want to give the villain this motivation. I want to make it all about like race and this, like really dig deep into the subtext of the material. And Disney were like, yeah, here's $200 million, but we won't give you the money for convincing looking rhinos or adequate green screen most of the time. And Ryan Coogler's like, yeah, that's fine. It's really ballsy and ambitious narratively, although it's about half an hour too long. The film's way too long, and I've watched it twice, and on a second viewing, that third act really, really dragged. But and also like Martin Freeman, I like him. What's he doing here? But I really liked and appreciated the film, and it's just something that feels so fresh and vibrant in the blockbuster landscape. But there are big issues, which I'm sure we'll all get into, but for me, I have a feeling I liked it more than you two, based on the what you've been saying in the lead up to this. But I'm interested in
I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I didn't review it because I thought, well, there's things I do want to criticize, and because it had that 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, because everyone was too scared to criticize it, because then they'd be like, you just don't like brown people. So I'll be like, okay, I'm just not gonna. But my criticisms were mostly going to be that like it's a good movie, but it just felt like it was following the Marvel solo movie paint by numbers, which is like, okay, we have a death fake out for the hero, check. We have the villain dies at the end, check. We have the MacGuffin storyline, check. It just went through all the same stuff, apart from the fact that it was all black people. It really wasn't all that unique, like the actual, like the story, the plot itself. So that was why I was like, but I did admire that they had the balls to actually talk about some, like, as you mentioned, Trilbee, some actual political stuff. And there's that bit, because it's all about accepting refugees, really. It's like, is Wakanda going to open its doors and it become part of the world, or is it just going to kind of mind its own business? And there's that guy who says, hey, when you accept in the refugees, they bring all their problems with them, and then Wakanda will end up just like everyone else. I was like, ooh. I was like, okay. I was like, how are they going to resolve that? I thought that's. I was interested how they were going to resolve that. Because I was like, because if they keep the doors closed, that doesn't seem very progressive. But then if they open them, I was like, what are they going to do? I mean, there will be problems if they open them. So I thought what they were going to do is they're going to open the borders, but all the refugees just somehow magically. All the refugees just somehow magically don't create a problem. That's what I thought they were going to do. But instead, they made it that T'Challa decided that he's not going to open the borders, but instead he's going to set up relief and help people in the countries where they already are, rather than bringing them in. I was like, so that's what Donald Trump proposed as well. But yeah, it's apparently okay now.
All right.
T'Challa saying it.
Did he? A citation needed, Bandit. I listened to it, but citation needed.
Yes. Yeah, well, with the Syrian refugees, he's like, you can actually help a lot more by helping them in the countries where they are, than rather than bringing them to a Western country.
Alarm?
Yeah, maybe. I can add it. There we go.
Grab him by the pussy.
No, but yeah,
it was like. But yeah, I was surprised that they came up with a good solution. They actually addressed the problems, and apart from the predictability of the Marvel storyline, I really liked it, and I thought Michael B. Jordan was fantastic. I was really intrigued by his character, and I was kind of on board with him up to a point, like when he's kind of like, "Hey, Wakanda needs to do more to help out the rest of Africa," and I was like, if his plan is I want to become Emperor of Africa, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be cool with that, because he'd probably do a good job. He'd help them out, and he'd share the technology and stuff like that. But then he's like, I'm gonna kill everyone. So I was like, okay, yeah, it's tick, another Marvel generic villain until Thanos, of course. So anyway, that's what I thought. Trey, as the only African American in the podcast, you've waited till last to speak about
I love how he's like, the movie's all about black people, and then Trey's like, Trey as an African American man. You can say black man, it's fine.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Jim Crow Law podcast, where we talk movies past, present, and future.
The moment he's talking about Black Panther, we become Trump and Jim Crow. Jesus. Okay. What I will say is that I admire the film, and I appreciate the impact it had, and I appreciate the idea of taking this idea of billion-dollar franchise and giving it to an all-black cast for the most part. I think that's a really cool thing that's happened, and I think it's really cool that I can walk down the street and just do this, and people by this I mean the Wakanda symbol, the Wakanda forever, and everyone just knows what that is now. That's great that I can just walk up and I just look at a black guy on the street. I'll just go like, I'll do like the Wakanda forever, and he's like, he nods and does Wakanda forever. That's happened 4 times since I've seen that movie. I can't make that up. It's amazing. However, the people at school.
Hang on, is the Wakanda Forever? Is that the? I can't see you, of course. Is that the arms crossed across the chest thing?
Yeah, it's the arms crossed across. Yeah, but like,
cool. One day that's going to backfire. You're going to go to a guy on the street. You're going to do the Wakanda Forever, and then the guy's going to be like, "I'm going to burn it all."
He's just going to pull out a gun and
that one.
Okay, because gang signs and all that. But no, but. And this is something I had to struggle with when I was talking to people about this at school and across the internet, and everyone that loves this movie and gave it 100% around to me. I was like, really? Like Toy Story 3, 99%, but Black Panther, yeah, let's give that 100. Anyways, but when you look at the film, not as a societal impact, but as a movie, and you have to separate what this movie is, and you have to look at it as what it is, which is a film, it's fine, I guess. It's a movie much like, I guess, like, where you really have to rely on the idea of you want to follow this guy named T'Challa, but T'Challa's so boring. He's like the least interesting character in his own movie. And so if I see him in movies, I'm like, why do I care about this guy? Who he was like my second or third favorite part about Civil War, and now he's in his own movie. I'm like, this isn't very good. And the villain's great. Michael B. Jordan does a fantastic job. Chadwick Boseman does some great moments when he's allowed to do great moments. Like when he's allowed to break his composure and attempt to do something. Like every time he's in like the astral plane and he's talking to his father, that stuff's great. But every other time he's just kind of playing it stoic and he doesn't really have a lot of levels there with his performance. I thought like Letitia Wright, whatever her name is, the girl from Black Mirror who plays the sister. I thought she was fantastic. I called them Sneakers. That was like the best line in the movie. That's really funny. And I loved the world they established. Wakanda is a really cool looking place. The special effects are not great. No, in fact, they're probably the worst the MCU's been in a while. Like they're like 2008 bad. It looked like a PS2 game, and I was like, what am I watching? Why am I watching this giant IMAX screen play a PS2 game? The music was great. I think it's Ludwig Göransson who did the music for Creed as well, another great Ryan Coogler film. But overall, I walked out of the film being like, meh. And I guess I wasn't afraid to call the movie meh because I guess I'm black, and I think that's bad that much like Wonder Woman, we feel like because the movie is about black people, we have to love it. That's not the case, guys. We are allowed to judge movies as they are movies. And I remember getting called some pretty harsh words because I was a black guy. I didn't like Black Panther that much. And they were like, Yeah, I was called like phrases like Uncle Tom were thrown away. I'm like, I'm not Kanye, but that's gonna date.
Grab him by the pussy.
Way to date the podcast.
Yeah. I imagine if you went to like a cliche Saved by the Bell type high school, you go to your locker and you open it up, and inside is like a foam rubbery hand, and now your nickname is Claw because you want to bring down Wakanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shame Andy Serkis got killed. He was having a lot of fun in this movie, wasn't he?
He's the only one that realizes that he's not supposed to take this very seriously. Everyone else is playing it so straight. I'm like, have some fun.
He's
Jesus.
got a Spotify playlist or something.
That's amazing. and he's like not just a goofy villain, but he's like intelligent too. Like what he does, he's like, we gotta let them attempt to escape to make it look like we're more amateur. I'm like, that's really cool. And there's a world there and there's history there, and then they just shoot him because Marvel is making interesting choices lately. Whatever.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't like it very
much. Let me ask you, Trey. Like,
yeah,
was this like a big sort of phenomenon in like the Black American community? Like,
yes.
Wow. Like so was it like when you saw the movie, was like the audience like fully black?
No, well, because I live in a Latin town, but there were a lot of black people in the audience. And I know at school a lot of the black kids were, they were all quoting the movie and they were all talking about. I think the movie did like 220 opening weekend here in the U.S., which at the time was, I think, the second biggest opening weekend of all time until Infinity War came out and smashed it. But yeah, it was a big deal. Like my dad, I think he sees movies maybe twice a year, and he went and saw Black Panther, and he came back talking about it, and and everyone at the barbershop he works at was loving it. It's. I do appreciate the idea that we can make a movie about black people and not have it take place on the streets. Like, Luke Cage was a cool idea for a TV show, but I don't think every movie about a black guy has to be about Harlem. Like, it's cool that we see a movie about an all-black cast, and they're all rich, and they're royalty, and they're just chill people living in a world and ruling a kingdom, and they also happen to be black. But the movie doesn't, play on that. I don't know. They did find a nice way to balance that. I just wish, as an actual film, they were able to give me something more film quality wise, because the action's also pretty terrible. There's one good fight scene, and it's when Killmonger fights T'Challa at the waterfall the first time. That's the one good fight scene in the movie. And Trilbee's right, it goes on for way too long. It's quite dull at certain points. I found myself droning off a little bit.
Yeah, and it was weird at my screening. There was before we saw the film, there was a trailer for Infinity War which had Black Panther in it. And then 2 hours later, we're watching him get thrown off a waterfall, and we're like, okay, how long is this going to last?
Yeah. The answer is 10 minutes too long.
Is it weird that the biggest complaint I had with Black Panther is, why is there a snow-capped mountain right next to an African pride land, African plains?
It's geographically, it was a little bit confused, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, I was wondering, because I was like, where's the wall? Because in the comics, Black Panther builds a big wall all the way around Wakanda to stop people from getting in. So I was like, where's the wall?
The wall is in your mind.
It does too. I'm not making that up.
Oh, Bandit.
Like, what's difficult to do, but we built
You're
the wall.
You're the one guy watching the movie, the white guy, be like, wait a minute, where's my wall? I'm like, oh, Bandit. Oh, Bandit.
God's sake, why aren't movies made for me anymore? Where's my wall?
He's like, why are there only two white guys in this movie? What is this, some kind of racist film? Man.
Did you see the really terrible tweet that went viral from someone who was looking forward to Ready Player One and was like, oh, this is like Black Panther but for geeks? And it's like, where have you been for the past decade?
He had that film. It was called The Avengers, my friend.
It was called, basically every major blockbuster for the past decade was your Black Panther.
Yeah.
I just found that really funny.
Actually, come to think of it, Ready Player One was very white, wasn't it? I mean, there's one black character that I can think
Spielberg.
of. Yeah. No, there was but actually, at the beginning of Ready...
There were the Japanese friends.
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah. Okay, well, that's
Classic Bandit.
Did it matter? Well, let me ask you a question. Did it matter in the plot that they were Japanese?
No, it just meant that they could have their online avatars be ninjas, and it would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably the reason why. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably why. But I did find it interesting with the Black Panther though, how the way that Wakanda is so advanced is because of the vibranium, and the metal somehow gives them technology. I don't know, whatever. But it's
I can freeze for 7 years and come back alive. I bought it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in real life, countries that have massive natural resources like that usually end up having the worst dictatorships. They actually call it the natural resource curse, because there's so much money you can get out of the ground with oil that you can basically ignore your population. Like dictators that need to tax their population have to at least treat them well enough that they can work, but dictators that don't even need the population could just extract like oil out of the ground. They're the worst because they couldn't care less about their people. But Wakanda has amazingly dodged that problem. I'm not sure how. Despite having the most infinite resources of all time, they completely avoided that problem. At least
this movie's about magical black people, Bandit. All right, you have to understand.
I know. I just wanted to work in a little bit of,
social
knowledge that
because Trump and Jim Crow just wasn't enough.
There's people who have been saying like Black Panther should be nominated for Best Picture, and I like the film probably more than you two, I think, but there's major problems with the film, and I wouldn't go that far. But if there was,
we're gonna get to a film that I think I would nominate for Best Picture if we're talking about the movies just I've seen this year, but this is not one of them.
If there's someone from the production who I think needs more acknowledgement, it's Ruth E. Carter, who did the costume design.
Yes,
she did amazing work. Like I've listened to an interview with her. She did it was for Collider. She did a she attended a live screening of the movie, and they did like a Q&A with her, and she was talking about the thought process of the film, and like the whole Afro-futurism aesthetic. It's just so great to see it on the screen. It does look like a Jack Kirby comic come to life, and her costume design and implementation of it's really great. It's kind of...
I will give Marvel that they have found a great way of turning these comic books to life here, and Black Panther is another great example of that.
Yeah, so I think if she's kind of the MVP of this film, and while Ryan Coogler has for the most part done a really great job in making a thought-provoking blockbuster, like you said, the action's not great. Chadwick Boseman, despite being an incredible talent, doesn't have that much to do, but I didn't mind that so much because it gave the supporting cast some more room to breathe and develop, and like you got Forrest Whitaker and Angela Bassett and Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, that's true, but I guess my thing is, like, I know this is a part of a franchise, and I know that he's the guy we're going to be following. Like, they're probably going to have him try to be the flagship of this new universe if it's not Captain Marvel, and I don't want to follow this guy if he's not interesting. Does that make sense?
But yeah, Black Panther is in all iterations, like whether it's TV shows or the comics, he's always been better in the Avengers as a supporting player. I think he maybe has been a leader in like offshoots of the Avengers, but I think he's always been more interesting as like the supporting cast. But I want to return to Wakanda, like outside of Infinity War, of course, and like see these characters some more. But this first film, I think, it's a solid introduction to the universe. I just hope that they expand on his character more in future.
Yes, I would like to see another one. That is true. I am down for seeing a sequel to Black Panther. I don't necessarily want an Infinity War Part 2, but I'm down for a sequel to Black Panther. So I guess what does that say?
Well, they need Avengers Infinity War Part 2 to bring back Black Panther because he turned to ash.
Fair. Well, just
he got dusted. I love that over the internet they're calling it getting dusted now.
The memes that are developing from
Have you guys looked up didthanoskill.me, the website? Did Thanos kill.me, and it's a fun surprise when you look it up.
I'm gonna Google that.
Did Thanos kill.me? It's a fun thing.
Thanos kill.
Nobody doesn't know it's actually a picture of a giant dick. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, Thanos' purple dick. Okay, you were slain by Thanos for the good of the universe. Oh, I don't feel so good, guys.
Really? No.
I don't want to go.
Fun fact, apparently James Gunn tweeted this out. Apparently Groot's last words were "Dad," which breaks my heart.
I was spared by Thanos. Yes.
Of course, Bandit gets spared by Thanos. Great.
Yeah, that's your white privilege in action, Bandit.
Yeah. Since Bandit wants his walls, Thanos kept him alive. Okay. So, Trilbee, did you see anything else, or Bandit, have you seen anything else?
Nope. I think it's over to you guys now. So.
I've seen I saw Love, Simon. Okay. Which is being touted as like apparently the very first film from a major studio to focus on a gay relationship or a gay character, and it does feel like a legitimate successor to like the John Hughes comedies of like romantic comedies of the 80s and 90s, and I enjoyed it. It was really good. It's based off the book Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which I think is just a terrific title. But the film itself follows Simon, who's coming to the end of his time at college, and he's a closeted gay student. And he discovers in this school forum somebody is posting, like, saying that they're gay. And he decides to get in touch with this person by email. He sets up an anonymous email account and starts having this back and forth with this guy who he has no idea who this other person is at the school. And it's about him trying to discover who this guy is, trying to navigate the relationships with his friends and his family. And it's a really sweet and sincere, heartfelt film. And it's not just about, oh, this character is gay and that's all there is to him, because that's the trap many films fall into. But it's not just about, if I come out as gay, everything will be different from my relationship with my friends and with my family, but it's also about just growing up and change. It's him leaving college and trying to pursue what comes next, and it's about him trying to hold on to everything that he's previously known, his relationship with his friends and his family, because he knows that when he comes out, everything's in a way is going to change, or he doesn't know if it's going to change or not, and he wants to kind of cling on to the normality of that for a little while longer. It's a great metaphor for like a pardon the pun, a coming of age story basically, and it's really multi-layered in that regard, and some of the character dynamics are really great. Like Josh Duhamel, who you'll remember as the generic white guy soldier in the Transformers films, he's really good in this film as Simon's dad. And when he does come out in the end, he has a really great interaction, because over the course of the film, his dad has been kind of saying homophobic jokes, but not like in a mean-spirited way. He's just been like little light-hearted jabs that aren't like mean-spirited, but he's still doing them. And then when he comes out, he feels really bad. He's like, how long have you known? For 3 or 4 years, and I'd never noticed. And he kind of feels bad that he didn't know that his son was going through all of these things. And it's a real tearjerker of a scene, and it shows that Josh Duhamel is more than just a great chiseled chin. But
yeah, dude, he was in Las Vegas, like the best show ever. Sorry.
I've never watched. He was also in The Last Night, the best movie ever. I'm so sorry, but Nick Robinson, who plays Simon, he really carries the film. He does a great job, and the whole young supporting cast are really fun and engaging. They've got great chemistry with each other. But there's one guy who's kind of like the villain of the film, played by Logan Miller, who I hated him. But it's not you love to hate the villain, you just hate the guy. And he just crosses so many lines over the course of the film, and I really did not like him at all. He's kind of the closest thing approaching a problem that the film has. But it's really sweet, really earnest. It's from Greg Berlanti, who kind of knows how to capture the younger demographic. But I really recommend Love, Simon if you're in the mood for just like a small, humble romantic comedy or a coming of age story, because it's not just about this student who happens to be gay. It's about just growing up and a period of transition in your life and changing relationships with your friends and your family. It's really multi-layered, it's just really sweet, really good film, and I recommend it.
So sorry for laughing. I wasn't laughing at you. It's my brain was stuck back earlier when you said, pardon the pun, he's coming of age.
Yep.
And in my brain I was like, is that what he meant? And then you said it again, and I couldn't help but laugh.
Fantastic.
I'm just here giggling like a school.
To be fair, I set him up for that.
Okay.
Because Ray didn't say anything, so I was like,
I feel like,
is that what he meant?
I feel like the knight in the cave in Last Crusade. Like, oh, I've set Bandit up with a pun. You have laughed wisely. Select the pun from this table.
Okay. Trilby, you know what? I trust your opinions. I'm gonna check the movie out now. I was very, very skeptical because I thought the marketing campaign was, for lack of a better word, ass. So I didn't. I had no interest.
Very spoilerific though. That trailer.
Bandit.
Oh boy. Bandit, why don't you go to your quiet place?
I'm trying to think of another pun, but I can't think of one.
Not thinking much, are you? Okay, yeah, but I will check the film out now, Julie. I will take a look at it. I'll probably end up chapping it, but that's fine.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be seen on the big screen, like Netflix or on DVD. That's a fine way to see it.
Yes.
It sounds like a good movie that really sort of gets to the heart of the matter and then kind of reaches around to grab you emotionally. Okay, that was a stretch, that one. That was a terrible pun.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. Oh, that was a stretch. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, tell you what. Because
sounds good. So what was it called again? Love Simon?
Yeah, Love Simon.
Love Simon. All right. Trey, what was the other thing you wanted to talk about?
Give it up to Bandit. That we're trying to have this pointed conversations about politics and homosexuality. Bandit's over here just like Trump, walls, reaching around, dicks. Way to keep the podcast classy. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm really going at Bandit's throat today. I apologize. He's making it too easy.
Sorry, Bandit can really take it down the throat.
I deserve it. That's fine. I didn't hear that one.
Maybe it's for the best.
Shelby, we may have to bleep it. We may have to bleep it, Shelby.
I'm the one recording
Actually,
it. It stays in.
Skype cut out, so I still didn't hear you, so that's all right.
Oh,
I
man,
have no idea what you said.
We may have to cut that Okay. Speaking of movie-going experiences, I saw A Quiet Place, which before Infinity War was kind of the big, like, don't tell me movie. So, for you guys that don't know, A Quiet Place is a film that follows. It's directed by and stars John Krasinski, along with Emily Blunt, and they play this family who are in this world in which if you make a sound, you are taken out by these ravenous creatures that have taken over the planet, essentially. And they hunt based on sounds they cannot see. And what ensues is 70 minutes of some of the most tense and thrilling and heart-wrenching and just what's the word I'm looking for? Just grim and just harrowing. It's like watching a puppy limp across the street. It's the most, like, you really want them to make it, but it also might be better if they just all just go. Maybe this is not the best world for them to be living in right now. And it is for 70 minutes, it is easily one of the best films I've seen in a very long time. And then, without giving anything away, the film takes this turn and becomes more of it spends 70 minutes being a mixture of like Alien and what's a really good family drama? I don't know, The Descendants or something. And it manages to be this really interesting story of what it means to be a parent and all that. And then it suddenly becomes, and I guess because Michael Bay produced it, it becomes like an action film. It becomes like Aliens or Stranger Things at the end, which, for some people worked. But I feel like for me really took a huge chunk out of what I really dug about this movie. But when it succeeds, it's like, it's amazing. And I think if you had, I don't think you've seen it, Bandit, but it's class. Like that's a very good film, and I really enjoyed it. Children, what about you?
Yeah,
sounds really good. What was it called again?
A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place. Well, actually, yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Avoid looking it up on the internet because I don't want you to have it ruined for you if you haven't heard of it.
Yeah, because this film's been huge. Like it came out after Black Panther, and when it came out, it was the second biggest opening weekend domestically of 2018. It's been a really big film, and it's from Platinum Dunes, believe it or not, and with that Michael Bay money. And like
so that's why it looks so damn good.
Yeah, that's why you get these studio horror films like Don't Breathe and A Quiet Place and all these other ones which prove that it's not just the indie scene where you can get good horror films. I liked A Quiet Place. It wasn't quite on the same level for me though. Although I can really appreciate it, like technically, and the performances are great, and particularly from the kids as well. You've got like Millicent Simmons, who plays like the young daughter who's deaf, and she's actually a real, like, she's as an actress she actually is deaf, and how they communicate through sign language for like 90% of the film. There's very little dialogue, and you do get a few moments where something happens and they just have clearly bumped up the sound mix to make everything really, really loud for a jump scare. But because there is so much silence anyway...
Man. Have you ever tried to sneak around the house at nighttime? When you make a noise, you make a noise. If you ever flush the toilet in the middle of the night, that's very loud.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like a helicopter landing.
Yeah, it's really...
Yeah, but I was like gonna...
Well, don't even get me started about... Don't even get me started about how loud like one single mosquito can be in your room once the light's out. Oof.
I was going to say that's actually like a point in the film.
No one can relate. Okay.
No,
I'm sorry, Chuck. I'm gonna let you finish. But speaking of Kanye, but like I just picture Bandit lying in his bed, and you just see like this giant 10-foot mosquito is like, bzzz, just like around it, like this giant Aussie. This giant Aussie mosquito. It's like, oh, that's just a mosquito. Oh, that's just a snake. Oh, that's just a giant spider. Anyways, back to bed.
It wouldn't be a problem, but they sound so loud when the lights are off, and then as soon as you turn the light on to spot it, they suddenly vanish. And you're like, damn it, where is it? And then you turn off the light and zzz, comes back again.
Yeah, then you turn the light back on, and then it's Snowball from Rick and Morty and the giant robot walker. Bandit, where are my balls?
Where are my testicles, Bandit?
But yeah, for A Quiet Place, the sound design I think did work in that, because if it is going to be like one single sound when everything else has been quiet, it's naturally going to be loud anyway, so it earns that like loud noise jump scare. And there is just genuine tension. Like this film is basically everything that could go wrong for this family does go wrong. And one of my favourite memes that have come out as a result of this film is A Quiet Place pictures without context, or scenes without context. And they show, like, there's a bit where in Home Alone when one of the wet bandits steps on a nail, and I just saw that before I saw the film, and I was like, oh god. Just like gifs without context for A Quiet Place. Like, the performances are great. Like John Krasinski is terrific. Emily Blunt. It's great to see like such a prestigious actress, if that's the right word, tackle B-movie horror material. That's always great.
Yeah. It's kind of like high concept horror. What I do also appreciate from the film is, and it is beautiful, and I think you can tell everyone involved. John Krasinski, who apparently is not a huge fan of horror, but he wanted to tell this. He got the script, which apparently was like a big kind of script that was on the blacklist, which is like a kind of a place where really cool scripts live before they are produced and turn into films. Like Emily Blunt got the script and sent it to him. She's like, you should direct it and be in it and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'll take a look at it. But he really wanted what was, I guess, originally this really cool horror film. He turned it into far more of a family drama. It's not that scary. It's more of a thriller than anything. The jump scares do get a little annoying, but I also appreciate how so much passion went into the production of the film. Like you can tell that they put a lot of effort. And it wasn't, I feel like they weren't trying, like, there's a scene, it's in the trailer, where the family plays a game of Monopoly. And something as simple as, like, when you play Monopoly, you have to use, like, they had to use, like, felt pieces, like cotton and stuff, because Monopoly is a naturally loud game. And I really appreciate that they went to that, and they shot the movie on film, which I always love, because they wanted to get the more rustic farm, kind of old family life appeal. And I just appreciate the movie that has consequences. Because when people mess up in this movie, they mess up, and the movie does not forgive
those
you.
Stakes really well,
and it does, and like this leads to, I guess, the big contention of the film, which is kind of the whole audience reaction to A Quiet Place, because I have been a major contender for not enjoying going to the movies as much as I love going to the movies. I also kind of hate it, and because what is supposed to be an experience of 200 people sitting in a room and enjoying the art of cinema then becomes okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. Getting back on break here. It then becomes people chewing their. Bandit sent me a message in the private chat. You have to excuse me. It then becomes like, oh, people chewing their food and on their phone and listening to things. I've seen that, I know, or crinkling up their snacks and eating their popcorn loudly, like making sure Jesus Christ himself can hear them chewing. It's just irritating the living hell out of me. They won't stop talking. They'll narrate the movie as it goes along. But in this movie, literally maybe within the first 5 or so minutes, they establish that can't happen here. You have to be quiet because the characters are being quiet. And so for a lot of the film, there's no score, there's no dialogue, it's just ambient noise, and you're just watching it happen, and you're like, oh, well, if they talk, or if you... And it was great because there's a certain point in the movie involving a silo where everyone was like viciously still, and someone like knocked, you can tell like someone like knocked like a box of M&Ms over, and people like jumped and screamed and all started laughing. And it's amazing how John Krasinski and all these people involved were able to craft this experience that I think really I think that's why I was so impressed with it. It really shows the power of movies. And I think a movie like that, like that's a high concept horror film, kind of mainstream movie that everyone can go and see and really enjoy, PG-13 horror, but it also has something to say about it. You know, so whenever someone says like, "Oh, Ready Player One was a fun film," I'm like, yeah, but like, was it like A Quiet Place? Because I always get people telling me, they're like, Trey doesn't like good movies. He only likes arts movies. I'm like, I loved A Quiet Place. Well, I loved the first 8 minutes of A Quiet Place, but that's my spiel on that movie.
I'm not quite as like high on A Quiet Place as you, but I understand your point. But it's also, when I think of really great horror films or like a use of metaphor in a way, like I kind of compare A Quiet Place to, say, The Babadook, where that's a film which is explicitly about like survivor's guilt and this mother and like this relationship between a family. Whereas with A Quiet Place, what I got in terms of subtext was, you know, trying to survive in the post-apocalypse with creatures that can hear you. That's really hard. Do you know what else is hard? Being a parent.
Yes.
That's kind of what I got from the film, and that was kind of, in a way, the beginning and the end of it. And I was like, I think there was maybe more the film could have explored. But that's kind of... It's a difficult tightrope to walk because they can communicate through sign language, but there's only so much that can be communicated through that format in order to establish a family dynamic, which is why I really liked the scene at the waterfall between like the father and the son. And I kind of wish there was maybe another one of those between the kids. And also, like, at the ending, I wasn't really a fan of the last 5-10 minutes. Like, emotionally, I liked it, but like reflecting on it, I was thinking maybe the film could have had a much more concrete ending, as opposed to.
You're talking about the shotgun bit, yes.
Yeah,
without
and also,
giving too much away.
Yeah, and also with the with like what the dad does near the end, I was thinking there's maybe 30 or 40 other things you could have done to get out of that scenario.
That is my thing. I feel like the movie spent so much time establishing how smart they like, and how much I've listened to interviews and them talking about the movie, and they apparently cut out scenes where like people sneeze into pillows. You know what I mean? And like they went through that much thought process. I don't buy the fact that they wouldn't have thought about other methods and other kind of ways to because it's a universe where how do you find a way to make bigger noises than other certain noises, and how they kind of play with that idea. I don't buy the fact that they couldn't find a way to make better noises than that. They find ways to make noise to kind of as traps in a sense, but I feel like they could have, I don't know. I agree with you there. That last act kind of takes a lot of it out of me, but I think there's so much good there, though, and you talk about the idea of it being about parents and whatnot. I think there's also like in the aspect of grief and what it means to truly be surviving in a place like this, and what the end game actually can be. And I kind of like this idea of how can you be a mother? How can you raise a family in an environment like this? And what does it mean to have a family? And I thought I explored those things fairly well, especially in like 90 minutes. It's a very short film.
Yeah, but it's I'm not trying to like knock the film. I recommend it, and I really enjoyed my time with it. It's just stuff like that additional subtext and the thought process and the family dynamic, which it's the type of stuff that, in my opinion, turns a good horror film into a great one. And for me, A Quiet Place is like I really enjoyed the movie-going experience of it, like how quiet it was, my audience's reaction to it, and just the unique vibe and the stillness of the theatre I was in, and how somebody in my screening brought in like a bag of peanut M&Ms, and within like 2 minutes they just put it in the cup holder and didn't touch them for the rest of the film because they got what.
That's amazing.
They got
our popcorn bucket was like 3/4 of the way full because we were trying. I look over at my friend at one point, and he's holding it to his mouth. I'm the kind of person, like, when something happens, I'll occasionally go, "Oh my God," and I'll just do like really quietly, like, "Oh my God." But I couldn't do that. I like covered my mouth. I was breathing like Emily Blunt in the movie. I was like, oh no! One of the best movie yells in any movie I've seen, by the way, involving a scene in the bathtub. I was like,
I was gonna say that whole bathtub sequence, that whole bit with Emily Blunt is, even though the rest of the film I can in a way take or leave, that sequence kind of almost justified the whole enterprise. And it's that scene where I will revisit or write editorials on, and how that whole sequence is constructed. And
like everything from the setup and payoff with things like nails and just how the movie's able to put you in the mindset without going into too much spoilers. You think, because you don't think about certain things in this world because you're so focused on something else, and then suddenly, boom, no, we have to think about this now. And it's such a great way to give you into the mind of the characters and just the way the movie pays off, the way the scene pays off, and where it goes from there. And the film, I think, does lull after that and is not able to reach that kind of peak. Yeah. I feel like that was the big moment. Like in Prometheus, the bit where she has to staple herself up and cut the baby out of her. The movie doesn't kind of get any better than that scene.
Yeah.
But, Benjamin, are you back yet?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I heard a chair squeak. I was like, yeah, he's back.
Yeah. Okay.
But I was going to say, either Bandit has left or he's being very quiet in keeping with the movie because there's giant mosquitoes outside his house, eh? But yeah, I liked the film, didn't love it, but I will always remember the experience of going to see it. I just don't think I'll revisit the film anytime soon, even though I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I don't have any other films I personally have to talk about.
Well, it's been we've been going for about an hour and a half. I'm guessing we don't have listener questions.
Well, I was wanting to talk about one more thing. Something I wanted to recommend to you two guys. It's
and before we do that, we do have a couple on the Facebook post that we didn't ask last week. We could touch on if you guys just wanted to do a couple of those. But Trilbee, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to recommend My Hero Academia because when I first became part of the Movie Mania podcast, one of the first episodes I listened to was Bandit talking about One Punch Man, which is this anime about a superhero who's able to kill everybody in one punch, and how do you develop a story about that. And that podcast is what got me into that show. And here's another superhero anime that is, in my opinion, just as good, if not better, than One Punch Man, but it's so different. It's really, really different. Basically, the premise of the show is that it takes place in an alternative universe where 80% of the world's population have developed superpowers, otherwise known as quirks. And and there's it's kind of like X-Men meets Harry Potter in a weird way, but it's also the universe isn't that different from our own, except there's now a new job. People can be superheroes. People can go to school and train to be superheroes, or they can join essentially talent agencies and get paid by the government to be superheroes, and the better they do, the more they get paid. And the anime focuses on this boy called Izuku Midoriya, who was born quirkless. He's one of the 20% of the population who does not have a superpower, but he really wants to be a hero. And you have this universe's equivalent of Superman called All Might, who is super strong, invincible, and is able to save everybody. He's super quick and super powerful, and he's Izuku's idol role model. And the two meet, and he mentors Izuku to become a hero, and actually allows him to inherit his power. So Izuku gets the powers of Superman, but he has not had a quirk or a superpower, so he cannot control it. Like, he punches somebody and his arm breaks. He jumps up and both of his legs are broken and useless. And he has to try and become a hero and study at this university, at this school where he trains to be a superhero. And the story is really, it's a story about optimism, and I love the series in terms of the actual plot lines and the characters, but also the circumstances about its creation, because it was written by manga artist and writer Kohei Horikoshi, who did some mangas in Japan that didn't sell very well, that weren't very successful, and he got into a bit of depression because of it. So what he did, he decided to channel all of his positive energies into like the optimism and the hope and the following your dreams vibe, and put it in this manga, which became really successful and is now one of the most successful animes in the world at the moment. And they've done 3 seasons of it. I really recommend the American, the US dub, because you've got this amazing voice cast. You've got Justin Briner, who voices Izuku. You've got Christopher Sabat, who's the voice of Vegeta in Dragon Ball. He voices All Might, and he's it's really funny as well. The series has a great sense of humor, but the animation and the action is terrific and beautiful, and the fight scenes are outstanding and out of this world. The plot lines are interesting. The supporting cast is the bread and butter. It's the lifeblood of the show, whereas most anime is basically, if you're not the lead character, you don't matter. But everyone here has got like unique quirks. You've got one character who he sweats nitroglycerin and is able to ignite it to create explosions. You've got one character who is able to shoot tape out of his elbows, so he can swing across cities and tie people up. You've got one character who can fire acid, one who can fire electricity, and all of these other superpowers that are really inventive and creative, and the supporting cast are great. And there's real emotion to the stories as well. Every episode is satisfying. Every episode has a well-defined beginning, middle, and end, and it's incredibly bingeable. The Series 2 has got one of the most outstanding action sequences I've seen in any format, not just anime, where Izuku fights another classmate who's got superpowers where one half of his body is ice, one half of him is fire. And it's so emotional that it genuinely made me tear up watching this fight happen. It's outstandingly done. It makes you just want to be a better person. And because One Punch Man has only got one season at the moment, but My Hero Academia is about a quarter way through its third season. It's on right now, and if you guys wanted to watch it, I'll give you a link as to how I've been watching it. But it's so good. I love it. I love it. It's a terrific series, and I really recommend you guys watch it, because it's just a great story, regardless of if you enjoy anime or not. If you like superhero stuff, it's a different approach to it, but it's really good.
My Hero Academia.
Yes.
That's what it's called. Yeah. Sounds really good, yeah.
And like I said, I recommend the American dub, because it's just as good, if not better, than the actual Japanese subtitles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's some really good anime out there. They do a fantastic job in Japan, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, Trey, do you reckon,
Yes.
Do you know when Rick and Morty is coming back?
No, I tweeted a joke about it on April 1st. I'm like, everyone make sure that they didn't actually live stream the new season again. I don't know. I don't think so. I
love that.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're going to release the first episode April 1st.
Yeah, I was going to say, they haven't confirmed a season 4 or anything yet. So they may not bring it back. I don't know.
Right. Well,
sorry.
I guess we're done then. Oh, no. We got a listener questions, don't we? We
have a couple here that aren't Infinity War related that I think we can bring up and talk about.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
You've got to ask yourself a question.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, these are listener questions, a portion of the show in case you answer listener questions, whether it be the chat, Facebook page, Twitter, whatever you find us. Ben Berkowitz asks, the best film of 2018 thus far. Anyone want to answer that question?
Oh, that's an easy choice, isn't it? It's got to be Avengers: Infinity War.
You would think, right? You would think it is, but it's not.
I can feel your anger, Trey.
No, I am a DC fan like my father before me. I will not join you.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Then you will be destroyed. It's just Marvel.
It's unavoidable.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Only the mouse deals in absolutes. We could do this all day, guys. What about you, Troy? What would you say was your favorite film of the year so far?
If you don't count Oscar holdovers, because we got UK differently, otherwise it would probably be something like The Shape of Water. It would be maybe Isle of Dogs or Infinity War. One of those two. Yeah, probably one of those two. I'm just looking at all of the releases that we've had over the past few weeks. Definitely not 50 Shades Freed. I'd rather not. Game Night was really good. I don't know if either of you guys
I heard that.
Yeah, that was
I've
really
heard Game
funny.
Night was great, yeah.
Yeah, that was really funny. And because I've got friends who actually... Because if you know the premise of Game Night, it's they hire this company who they go to your house to do like murder mystery themed parties and make you solve clues and you can win a prize. I've got a friend who actually works at a company that does that. And just like knowing like all of the lingo and all of like the in jokes and stuff, I just found that really, really funny. It was a really rewarding experience. But Isle of Dogs was really good, like stop motion animated film as well. Really enjoyed it.
I did hear that. Yeah, I mean, we just talked about it, but I feel like A Quiet Place was definitely the film this year that was like, oh, yeah, that's easily the best one I saw this year. I'm thinking back, and I think that was. I'm looking back and thinking about my reaction emojis. I'm trying to think of technically, I mean, because it's not the best film I saw that came out this year, but I watched L.A. Confidential for the first time this year. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the film. It's Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, and world famous Kitty Diddler, Kevin Spacey, and it's about like sorry, that's what we're gonna call him from here on out in the podcast.
Really appreciate the balls on that kid.
Someone make fan art, please. I know I'm asking a lot, but can we make a Kitty Diddler, Kevin Spacey fan art? No, but
just don't let your family see it. No context in the world will be enough for them.
Yeah, and that was pretty great. I also had never seen Heat, and I watched Heat for the first time, and that was pretty awesome as well. Netflix is dropping the cool rated R crime films, but in terms of movies that came out this year, probably A Quiet Place.
Yeah, Bandit, what about you? Is it always at Infinity War, like full stop?
Yeah, it's got to be Infinity War.
Yeah, your check from Disney's in the mail. All right, let's jump to our next question here. More Salt films. That's fine. Thanos was good. Thanos was good. Like I so demeaning. Yes, Bandit. Thanos was good. That's all right.
No, that was me just snapping my finger, trying to turn you into ash for not liking the movie.
Oh, wanting to burn the black guy. Oh yeah, good work there, Bandit.
Oh yeah, and as Trey's fading, he just looks at me and goes, "Dad."
I'm like, well, I don't feel so good, and you're just like, you're all right, Trey. It's all right. You're making too much noise.
You'll be okay. You've got your own sequel.
Yeah. The podcast needs a token. Okay, more Salt films. We'll stop there. He says, "Do you think that foreign cinema continues to be incredibly influential on American cinema, or has American cinema been a bigger influence on foreign cinema nowadays?" Did anyone get that? Yes? Anyone pick up on that question? Okay. What about you, Chip? What say you?
I'd say they have a rather symbiotic relationship. Like you often get like, let's say The Matrix, which was heavily inspired by John Woo and Chinese action movies and Wire, Drunken Master Chu films. And you also get your typical zombie films, like say Train to Busan, which was of course heavily inspired by George A. Romero, Dawn of the Dead Western zombie films. The two have a symbiotic relationship where they kind of cherry pick the best aspects of other cultures. Like we were saying earlier with say My Hero Academia or One Punch Man, they take the superhero concepts which are popularized in Western fiction and put their own spin on it. They put their own Japanese sensibilities into the storyline, how they view the world, or just incorporates their lifestyle and their aesthetic into something that we are just used to in a very different context. I'd say that they both influence each other, but if you look at the box office, it's either China or America. So, but it does allow this whole cross-culture East versus West thing. So I'd say that they both kind of contribute to each other.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends, because there's also Bollywood, which is a huge industry, but it does not cross over with Western cinema at all. It does cross over a little bit with China.
It crosses over
occasionally.
the UK a bit. Because when I do my UK box office stuff on my website, every so often a film I've never heard of with a weird title comes up. And I'm like, oh, okay, it must have been an Indian or Muslim holiday. And because that's what happens in the UK, you get a religious holiday, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's a big Bollywood film being released to commemorate it, and it gets in the top 5 in the UK box office despite playing in 6 cinemas. There's a very dedicated audience, and also Polish cinema, believe it or not. You get these crime Polish dramas, and all of a sudden they're just playing in multiplexes in the UK, and it's where did this come from? This wasn't marketed at all, yet it's found an audience.
Foreign cinema, in general, I think maybe it's because every weekend in America 6 movies come out here, but the foreign cinema, there is so much out there. I mean, there's a show on Netflix called Dark that is it's German cinema, and it's a very good show. It's very sci-fi horror. It's essentially R-rated Stranger Things, but German. So of course it's going to be depressing and grim and stuff. But depending on how far back you want to go, you talked about the classic kind of kung fu influences. You can even talk about going way back to when film was first being like a thing in the world. You had kind of like I think it was German Expressionists that kind of helped change kind of the way we make films, the French New Wave, which you can see, by the way, all over every movie ever. Like, I mean, even all over TV shows, and just the way movies were made were kind of altered based on how countries like France and Germany when they got their hands on cinema. People like Taika Waititi, who was making this kind of Aussie New Zealand cinema, and was able to transfer over and take a film like Thor Ragnarok and make that kind of big success. And then of course you even have, I mean, if we're talking going as far as like British, if you want to call British foreign, which I suppose it is. People like Christopher Nolan, who kind of has found this beautiful blend of like the British cold Kubrick cinema and this kind of emotional, bombastic Spielbergian American cinema, and kind of combine those worlds together. And I mean, it's all over the place. There's so many different influences from all over the place. And I'd
totally love it if like a lot more of the Bollywood and the Chinese movies were able to compete more with like Western movies in Western countries, because the more competition there is, the more it forces like Hollywood and all other groups to raise their standards, and that's good for all of us moviegoers.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd love to see more foreign movies.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because like the film industry at the moment is, even if you just look at say American mainstream releases, it's still a melting pot of talents. Like you've got Guillermo del Toro, a Mexican like born director, who, even though he's making films in America, like films like Pan's Labyrinth and Devil's Backbone and Hellboy, they are like inspired by like the gothic Mexican Spanish fairy tales that he grew up with, and he's exposed that to a modern audience. Like Neil Blomkamp as well, even though like his recent work like theatrically hasn't like been great, although he's doing like indie stuff with his own like production label, which is garnering quite a lot of success. Like, but he's born in like South African, like at least he's got South African heritage, and that informs his work. And because you have the internet and Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and all these streaming platforms, you can, a film like say Sing Street, which is an Irish film, and in Ireland they only make say 1 or 2 films a year that actually cross over the border to have some sort of an impact. A film like Sing Street can gain a bit of a following in say America or in the UK, and that can branch out quite well. Even though it's like it's still an English language film, but it's so tied to its own heritage and everything that director was brought up on based on where he was born or grew up. So it's a big melting pot.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about movies like we were talking about. Oh, sorry, Ben, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to get you guys' opinion. Like, why do you think it is that a movie like Slumdog Millionaire was a Bollywood movie that kind of worked overseas, but we get so few other Bollywood? What do you think it was that was about Slumdog Millionaire that was special?
Well, that was also directed by a British man, wasn't it? It was Danny Boyle.
Yeah,
Danny Boyle did, which the guy that did Trainspotting and those kind of movies. I mean, it's something that was a good film, but you've got Danny Boyle kind of backing your film there.
Yeah.
Well, that explains it. Yeah.
And because it was also done through, depending on what country you were in, it was either like 20th Century Fox or Warner Brothers. It was a major Western distribution company who were able to, like Danny Boyle, a British director, is inspired by Bollywood, and Americans released the film. And you also had going back to The Matrix, you have Warner Brothers, an American company, and the Wachowski siblings, who are American filmmakers, but they're inspired by Eastern action films. But because they're an American company, they take those influences and bring them to the mainstream in an accessible way. So it depends on, like, for some Slumdog Millionaire, that could even be, say, a gateway drug into Bollywood films, basically. Or if you like Slumdog Millionaire, try these other films that are also, well, maybe 3 times the length, but have a lot more musical numbers in them.
But I do think that a movie like Black Panther and other films like that, even something, I don't know, it was kind of a smaller scale like Dunkirk, which highlighted, which was a big, technically American film that highlighted a huge British event. Like, the movie is not about American people, but it still managed to garner a big kind of box office gross. I think it was nominated for 7 Oscars and won like 3 of them. And a movie like Black Panther, which is about African people, I think we are starting to move more towards. I don't want to call it like because we've always been influenced by foreign cinema, but we are really trying to embrace, especially in the wake of some other political viewpoints. I think Hollywood is really trying to bounce back against the kind of foreign hate that might be in the actual world right now with what we are getting in cinema. I think that shows.
Yeah, and it's also just helping to establish like brand new talents in the industry from different cultures and backgrounds. Because one reason, say like Black Panther or Wonder Woman, for like just plucking them out of thin air, did so well, is because they were telling different viewpoints or storylines that are well worn and well trodden in fiction, but because it's telling it from, say, like a different gender or inhabiting an entire new world like Wakanda, it makes it feel fresher. And what can help to liven up the box office are these like fresh outlooks and these fresh opinions and these fresh filmmakers. So Hollywood is basically kind of hedging its bets, basically, is looking around across the entire world and saying what is different, what is fresh, what are audiences responding to, and what's this new wave of talent once, like, say, Spielberg and Scorsese and Nolan and all these other filmmakers retire or stop making films. Like, what's the next wave of filmmaking going to be? And I think whereas in the 90s it was the indie scene, like, say, Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino, like these guys who were brought up on VHS tapes of films from the 70s and the 80s. Hollywood is looking at like worldwide filmmakers growing up with different outlooks to inspire that new wave of the indie revolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good question to whoever left that question there.
Yeah, Mersault Films, who's a good fan of the show. Yes. Okay, I think that's a great place to end the show, actually. So, thank you all for listening. This was a great kind of... we salvaged the show. We pulled something together. It was a nice little discussion here, talking about the films we've seen. Bandit, where can people find you?
People can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated, and they can find you, Trilbee.
You can find me on my website at www.trilbee.com. You can find me on my own podcast, the Film Brits podcast, and you can also find me on my YouTube channels, Trilbee Reviews and also Mr. TARDIS Reviews. Trey, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me online at Twitter, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Podcast Media. Starting in August, I will be attending the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. So yeah, I'll have to be recording the podcast from there, I suppose. Hopefully, annoying my roommates to no end, as they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." I'm just sitting there talking to myself for 2 hours in my bed. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you all next time. Yes.
Our movie Maniac.
Oh, I almost swore. There it is. I knew I forgot something. I was forgetting something. Catch you all later, Movie Maniacs. Okay, that's the end of the show.